So I don't know if you guys have been watching the ladders for the first big MCS tournament of the year, but Henry has absolutely been destroying everybody that he's matched up against. And he had a really off year for Madden 25. He is all the way back right now and more than likely going to finish ladders with the #1 seed and get a couple buys. And it's going to be very interesting to see how he does going forward. But he's got to be the early favorite to win the first tournament just because he's blowing everybody out. And we're talking the best players in the world. It caught my attention because he's using the Jaguars offensive playbook, and that's the playbook I'm in right now. And he had some really interesting route combinations, so I copied a bunch of them, and I figured, you know what, might as well show you guys what they are as well. With that being said, and before we go over anything, make sure you check out his website. You can see it in the upper left, filmstudy.tips. I'm sure he's going to go over everything in a lot more detail, and you can learn it directly from him as well. The primary formation is going to be Y-off trio close, which Henry and myself both using the Jaguars offensive playbook. I've been in it since day one. I think it's one of the best playbooks in the game. But you can also find this formation in the Eagles, Broncos, 49ers, Lions, Packers, Seahawks, and Saints playbooks. It's also an incredibly popular formation in college football 26. So if you want to run this scheme in 2 different games, you certainly can. And the funny thing is, it doesn't really matter what play as long as you're picking a passing play, because for most of the route combinations Henry uses, they're all hot routes that are available with any quarterback that you use. These are the 4 custom audibles that I have in this formation: the motion, mesh rail, flood, and smash return, with 0-1 trap as a running play. And because of the way the game's designed, Henry and a lot of pro players do this. He'll actually come out in a different formation, and I noticed he pretty much always comes out in bunch nasty and then audibles to the Y trio or Y off trio close. So as soon as you select your play in bunch nasty, which is probably my favorite formation in this playbook that I use the most, and we'll have some additional breakdowns from the Jags playbook in future videos. But as soon as the huddle breaks, he's basically hitting square or X on Xbox to bring up the audible menu and then pressing the D-pad 3 times to the right to go to the gun Y off trio close formation. The reason he does this is because as soon as you select a different play in a different formation, you almost have unlimited hot routes. Now, it's hard to really show that in practice mode, but I just did all of that in like 5 seconds. You can basically do more hot routes at a quicker pace by coming out in one formation and audibling to a different formation. It also helps that currently right now, the quarterback I'm using is Jalen Hurts, and he does get conductor as an ability, which even speeds up the process even more. The play that I would recommend audibling to every single time is going to be flood, because just as a basic like default stock play, this one's really good, and you can quick snap directly to this one before you set up any of the route combinations that Henry is using. So I took screenshots of all of the route combos. If you want to, copy this on your computer or snap a screenshot on your phone for help, you can certainly do that. This is probably my favorite out of the 5 or 6 route combinations that he's been using. I don't want to spend time breaking down the basics of how to do a hot route, but everything you see on the field right here is available with default hot routes. So Jamar Chase is on a crosser. We have Zach Ertz on a drag. Chase Brown is on a Texas route or an angle route. Victor Cruz is just on a streak. And then Jalen Waddle is on a speed out. We did stem that down 1 click. If you don't know how to do route stems, again, we're going to bring up our hot route menu, select Jalen Waddle, push left on our left analog stick to put him in a speed out. And then we do that same process. Hot route menu, select Jalen Waddle. At this stage, though, we're going to hold down L1 for custom stem. And if you press up or down on your directional pad, you can, basically put the braking part further up the field or down. He stems it all the way down. So this is what it looks like. And basically, the initial read is Zach Ertz. Like, if you can hit him on that drag and he's wide open, you can yak it up the field and get a lot of yards in front of you. The back end Texas round with Chase Brown is really, really good. But the best route out of all of this truly is Jamar Chase on that crosser. Victor Cruz is kind of clearing it out with the streak. Jalen Waddle with that quick speed out is keeping one of the defenders on that side of the field engaged to basically open up the crosser for Jamar Chase. Now, we're running this in practice mode. It's not always going to work perfect, and I haven't had a ton of time to go through and practice these formations in online gameplay, but after seeing what Henry was able to do with them, I'm certainly going to give it a try, and that's the main reason why I'm making this video. Before I actually run this play, I do want to point out in this same exact playbook, I've been using a similar route concept, and you've probably gone against this because people do it, you can also quickly audible to this one in the same Jaguars playbook for gun trips tight end. So as soon as I audible to that one, I do a custom stem with square because he's normally on a curl, and I just push him all the way up the field to turn it into a streak. And then I would actually audible Zach Ertz onto that drag. So again, kind of a similar setup. You got a drag, you got an angle route from your running back, and then a crossing route with Jamar Chase. The biggest difference here is you don't have anything on the right side of your field to kind of occupy people over there. So the post route from Jamar Chase isn't always going to get open, but it's a very, very similar concept. And again, you can eat up a lot of yards. I run this against the computer just in solo challenges as well for anything that requires passing yards. But going back to Henry's scheme here and play setup, this is my favorite one, as I said earlier, simply because of that crossing route. Now, the crossing route was not going to be open in that instance, so you're either going to take the drag or the Texas route from the running back. Because you have to do so many hot routes, it might be a little bit of a nuisance for you guys to set up. You can see that crosser, if I had more time, was going to get open right there. I just love the flexibility in this one because you have the opportunity to hit a quick drag like that and get a ton of yards. But if the crosser gets open, it's such a big play downfield, you know that your opponent's always going to be worried about it. And then at that point, it might start leaving up the underneath routes wide open. This is setup number 2, and setup 2 and 3, the one we're going to go over after this, are pretty similar. But again, a lot of different hot routes here. You have a curl route on the left. You have this swing route from your running back, which is not very common. And to do this one, because you might not know how to do it, hot route menu, select your running back, and you're going to push left on the right analog stick for a swing route. If you need some extra protection, you can definitely go ahead and block your running back as well. But he's essentially kind of bringing attention to himself and allowing Jalen Waddle on that return route from your far right to the screen, then eventually moving left to get open. He being Henry, would stem up this corner route on Zach Ertz from the tight end occasionally. But really, you're hoping that Victor Cruz can get open over the top of the defense with the slot fade, which is going to be L2 with your hot route options. That's left trigger on Xbox, if I remember correctly there. And if he doesn't, you basically have the underneath stuff with the turn route, the hook, or the curl, I should say, and then if Zach Ertz gets open on the corner route, you're going to be able to hit that receiver as well. If it's man coverage with no safety help, Victor Cruz is probably going to get open. If it's zone, you're going to look for either the curl or that return route where we hit Jalen Waddle right there. And I do just want to stress that I haven't ran a lot of these plays online, so I'm still kind of getting used to them as well. But you can see just all of the open space that you're able to find with these different route combinations. And like I said, setup number 3, pretty similar. You still have the swing route from right to left with your running back. You still have the curl with Jamar Chase on the solo receiver side, and Jalen Waddle still on the return route. Main difference is you're putting Zach Ertz on a streak here and Victor Cruz on a corner route. And again, you're just going to snap it and look for who's open. The return route was open there, so we're just going to take it. You definitely want to jump into practice mode and go through the progression so you can know what to look for every time you're snapping it, and really just start off maybe running one of the plays in a real game. And then once you get a good grasp of that one singular play, then graduate over to the next play and the next play and the next play and so forth. On that last example, we got absolutely screamed at. That was a bad read by me, but I feel like if we led that down a little bit more, it would have been there. I will also say this is probably, out of all of the stuff he was doing, this is probably like the least run play that he did with this whole setup, but it was similar to the last one, so I kind of wanted to group those two together. And I believe one of the gameplay examples that I provided was him scoring on a touchdown, kind of rolling out to the right and then throwing the left to Jalen Waddle on that return route there. We had the corner route wide open, but those last two plays really similar but still good. So here is going to be setup number 4. You have a return route on the solo receiver side. Zach Ertz, your tight end, is going to be on a post. Victor Cruz has that clear out streak route. Jalen Waddle is still going to be on the speed out, stemmed one click down. And for the running back, he's currently on a wheel route. I did see Henry put him on a streak. Sometimes he blocked him, but you're really looking for the seam on, like a quick snap and throw to Victor Cruz. And if not, it's kind of a two-man game with Zach Ertz getting over the top, and then Jamar Chase on that return route for some underneath stuff. And if the running back happens to be forgotten, he's going to get open on that wheel route again. You're probably going to get screamed at a lot playing online with, all the mid-blitz guys out there. So you're going to have to make those quick reads, and if you have to block the running back, you certainly can. But you can see that return route from Jamar Chase, even though Zach Ertz dropped it, the return route held the defenders enough to open up that post over the middle. We'll run it one more time just with the running back blocked, and we have the seam right there for Victor Cruz. That's kind of my first initial read looking at this play. The return route post combination, I think, is going to take a little bit longer to develop, and that's why I would recommend maybe blocking your running back. Even though we did it there, the computer still screamed at us in practice mode. But as long as you have enough time, this should absolutely beat man coverage out there. And it has some nice check down elements to it. The next setup is probably my second favorite out of all of these. So you have that crossing route, that deep cross again on Jamar Chase's side there, the solo receiver to your left. You have a drag return route combination with Zach Ertz, your tight end, and then Jalen Waddle, the outside right of screen receiver. Victor Cruz again, that kind of middle receiver on the right hand side with another clear out route, and then you just got a quick dump off to your running back if you want to hit him on the table route. Just looking at what the computer's randomly about to give us here in practice mode, I feel like I'm about to get blitzed, which means Zach Ertz or Chase Brown should be open pretty quickly. They did drop back in coverage there, so we had the return route again. In practice mode, I'm sure a lot of you experience this and know this. The computer just plays at a whole different level, and it is on all Madden, so you're not always going to see this crazy pressure when running this online. Don't get me wrong, there is a lot of pressure when you do play online right now, and you can always block your running back to help pick that up a little bit better so you have a little bit more time to make a throw. We definitely pass-led inside there, nice streak touchdown. But I think the entire goal of this one, much like the first play, is if you can take the quick drag or the quick return route, go for it, but really we just want that crosser to get open over the middle of the field, and it's going to do a really good job of getting a lot of yards in one play. The final setup is one that I only saw him run a few times, but he scored on a touchdown against Dez, and I think you saw that in the beginning of the video. So you have Jamar Chase on a drag from left to right. You have Zach Ertz, your tight end, on a drag from right to left. Your running back is on an out route. I don't know how useful that one's going to be, so you can definitely block your running back in that situation. Again, Victor Cruz is the streak guy there to clear out, and this time we have Jalen Waddle on the deep cross, and that's who he hit for a big touchdown against Dez. But, you still have the underneath stuff when you run the play here where you can take it, and because hook curls and vert hooks aren't really playing very well right now. They're kind of broken and just going to match coverage no matter what you do, meaning they basically play man coverage when they're supposed to be a zone. Drag routes right now are incredibly overpowered and is essentially why I continue to say, just take what's there. The deeper stuff will come later on, but if you just chip away with the drags and whatnot, you'll be able to just gash them for tons of yards, start frustrating them, maybe cause them to blitz, or just do something out of character. And then at that point, you should be able to hit the bigger plays downfield with like the crossing route like we did right there. Kind of a bad throw. Probably should have hung onto the ball a little bit longer and made the throw after he cleared the defender. Here it's going to be a much better example. And I think all of these plays are a great opportunity to just crush man coverage. So that's it for now. That's everything that I saw Henry running very successfully during ladders for the first big MCS tournament of the year. And they were such good route combinations, I figured I'd share it with you guys as well. Hopefully it works out for you. Let me know if it did. And shout outs to Henry for this. Thank you. My name is Popular Stranger. I'm out. Peace.